I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 433. Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all my dear friends all over the world. I've got something very special for you. For those of you who missed my masterclass, 3 Simple Steps to Menopausal Weight Loss, have no fear. I've got it for you today. You can watch it or you can listen to it, but it's filled. I talked a lot about emotional hunger, physical hunger, how to talk to yourself, answer questions. Probably the perfect summertime treat. Truly a real treat. So whatever you do when you listen to my podcast, take a walk, take a drive, or take a bubble bath, enjoy this masterclass. And of course, I wouldn't end this without telling you while you're watching my masterclass or listening to it, please, please, please be very, very kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are here for 3 simple steps. 3, not 2. 3 simple steps. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And everything I do is about being able to listen to your mind and then be able to know what you want to do with your mind and quiet it enough so you can decide what you want to think and what you don't want to think. So as I'm starting to get into this, because the purpose of this call today is, number one, I want to help you understand basics. And I think the reason my basics, and I'm just curious as I'm talking to a lot of you, where you know me from. So if you've heard me from my podcast, if you don't mind writing it in, I'm really curious if you don't know anything about me or anything that I talk about. Because what I'm going to do today, I am going to treat everybody as if they've never heard this before. So for those of you who've heard this a lot, good. I really think that if you use the beginner's mind, that's a very good Zen quote, a beginner's mind, you're going to learn something that you didn't learn before, no matter how much you've heard me. And what I want to do with this time with you today is hopefully that I might be able to help you see things in a way that you haven't seen them before, or seen your mind in a way that you've never seen it before. And like you see on my board, I want you to expect a miracle today. And by definition, my definition of a miracle is a change in perception. Your life can be exactly the same when we get off this call, but you can see it in such a different way that it'll feel like a new life. Or it could be your body, or it could be a relationship. Whatever it is, how you see it can change everything. How you see yourself, probably the most important relationship, how you see yourself can change everything, your perception. So I want you to expect that today as we go through the 3 simple steps to menopausal weight loss. And I think it's really important to note, and I really want you to understand that I'm in my 70s now. And when I started this work, I was in my 50s. And I cannot tell you what a blessing it was that I did that. All I can say is that the way I see things, the way I see myself, and the way I see food is so different in these last 20 years than it was in the first half of my life. And it's all because of me becoming a coach and learning coaching and two, being able to create and be in programs that taught me many of the things that I teach now. And I call it thinner peace. And what I mean, if you don't understand thinner peace, is like the inner peace, having peace inside yourself with the way what you put in your mouth, how you see yourself, how you see your life, for it to be more peaceful. And that's all about managing your mind and quieting your mind. And don't forget, I have my butterflies on today because I'm all about transformation. And when I became a coach 15, 20 years ago, that was my sign. Martha Beck said, when you leave here, I want you to tell me what your sign is going to be, what you want to see out in the world that's going to tell you that you made the right decision to become a coach. Because I was a chiropractor for 30 something years. And what I wanted was I wanted a butterfly to land on me. And this was in Arizona. And at the time of this Arizona trip, I was going to meet my husband after this seminar with Martha Beck. And the name of the hotel where I was staying was called La Mariposa. I didn't even know that. And this hotel, everything in it was all about butterflies. Everything. Butterfly sheets, butterfly lamps, butterfly, butterfly, butterfly. I mean, I couldn't have planned it if I tried. I didn't know. I really didn't know. And I remember when we drove up to the gate, it was a big iron butterfly gate. And I'm going, what's happening here? And I want for those of you who are looking to find out what you're really hungry for, because part of how I figured out this next phase of my life, like what I'm doing right now that I've been doing for maybe 15 years, I'm not even sure how long anymore. It couldn't have happened if I kept using food to feed my emotions. And when I say my emotions, like I had a lot of discomfort at the toward the end of my chiropractic career in terms of wanting to stay or wanting to leave, or I just wasn't sure anymore. It was just wasn't as passionate about it. And I like to go out to eat dinner after work and drink and eat. And I called it celebrate. And as long as I was doing that, I didn't feel all this discomfort as much. And when I started learning this work and stopped eating when I wasn't hungry, I felt a lot more of this discomfort. And I think that's how I got here. So if you're trying to get someplace else, the only way you're going to get there is you're going to have to listen to what's going on inside of you, which are called emotions. And you can eat them or you can feel them. I'm going to teach you how to feel them a little bit more today and talk about the whole concept of eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. To me, that was the most important question that anybody ever posed to me as I was going through a coaching program was, do you know when you're hungry and do you know when you're full? I thought that like, what a stupid question. Just tell me what to eat. I was a Weight Watcher. I was a lifetime Weight Watcher member. And I knew how many points everything was in. And when I needed to lose weight, I knew where to go. And when my weight was off, I knew what to do. I could go back and use food the way I've always used it my whole life. And once these questions were posed to me, and once I started going, am I hungry? How hungry am I? Am I full? How full am I? All the things that I want to talk to you about today, it changed everything for me. Now, I have to tell you that as I was doing this new work, and I was a lifetime Weight Watcher member, and at the time there were still cards. I kept my Weight Watcher card in my purse for over a year after I stopped going to Weight Watchers. I just thought I had to keep it just in case. I was really frightened. It took me a while to really trust myself. I trusted Weight Watchers. I didn't trust myself. I want you to learn to trust yourself in your whole life about everything. But it starts with, do you know when you're hungry and do you know when you're full? These are just the basic connections. If you've gone your whole life like I did, and now you're in your 50s and you don't know the answer to that question, or if you don't know the answer of why do you eat when you're not hungry, then this is for you. So I want to ask you a question. Why do you eat when you're not hungry? Oh, see, Beth said she saw me on podcast first and Instagram second. I'm kind of reading what you're writing about how you hear about me, but I also want you to start writing in the Q&A to me, why do you eat when you're not hungry? Oh, and here Carolyn says, I've been listening to your podcast for years and a few of your Zoom classes. That is so awesome that a lot of you know my work. Oh, Marie, I did a group session with you. Look great in your 70s. Thank you, Marie. I love it when you come to my classes. How are you? Oh, anonymous attendee. Why do you eat when you're not hungry? Something to do. So here's the thing. I totally relate to what you're saying. You just need something to do. So just think about this. Why do you have to have something to do? I know sounds so crazy, but it's emotional hunger when you're looking for something to do, when your physical body says, I'm not hungry. And your mind says, well, let's eat because we need something to do. You need to listen to that brain of yours with thoughts like that. Just because your brain says we need something to do doesn't mean you do. But if you've been thinking it for a long time and you've been doing it for a long time, it's like automatic for you. Terry says boredom or a habit. If I were you, Terry, I wouldn't call it a habit anymore because I think anytime we call something a habit gives us a reason to keep doing it. So I would rather you say boredom. And it's kind of like the same thing with this anonymous attendee saying for something to do. You know what I think 20 years ago is I think I was bored too. I think I was bored with what I was doing. But as long as I was eating, I wasn't bored. And I didn't get to feel the boredom that was actually that emotion, which was going, what do you want to do? I had to think about it if I wasn't going to eat it. So I say to you, Terry, what's your boredom saying? What are you bored about? When are you bored? Why are you bored? Life is pretty cool. What are you bored about? But I think it'd be great to be able to answer those questions. Oh, Beth, it tastes so good. Why do you eat when you're not hungry? Beth says, because it tastes so good. Probably the number one answer if we were doing Family Feud. Number one answer. Your brain has got a lot of ideas that do not serve you. And just because something tastes good does not mean you have to continue eating it if your physical body is asking you to stop. Just think about this for a minute. You can't make little kids. I don't care. I don't care if they're bored or what they are, but whatever it is, you cannot make them eat if they're not physically hungry. Now, they get to a point where you can, but when they're really little, you cannot make them. And I really believe our bodies are wired not to be able to do that. But I think over time, we get a mind that thinks, and it's got a lot of things to think about. And food in our culture is very, very interesting. And our bodies in our culture are very, very interesting. How we see our bodies and how we see food. If you're anything like me and you've been dieting your whole life, you have no connection to your own body and you are totally connected to something that's extrinsic. It's outside of you. Weight Watchers told me how many points I could eat. I could follow that and I could lose weight with zero connection to my body. I did it for 30 years. And had I been able to continue to lose weight like I always did when I hit my 50s, I might not ever cared about the question, why do you eat when you're not hungry? And do you know when you're hungry? And do you know when you're full? I was looking for something because my body was not taking off that weight. Welcome to menopause. Welcome to getting older. Welcome to slower metabolism. But I don't really think it's a bad thing. A slower metabolism, our metabolism slows down over time. Not a bad thing. And depending on what you do with your body, everybody's metabolism is a little bit different. But I think our appetite decreases over time. I can't tell you the difference in my appetite at 70 than it was at 50 because I pay attention to it. And I didn't know what my appetite was in my 40s because I never paid attention to it. I always thought, which I hear a lot, I'm always hungry. I always thought I was hungry. I could always eat. And not only that, if I was going to eat, I wanted to make it count and I wanted as much as I could. I didn't care about my hunger or my fullness. And when you can't pay attention to those basic body signals, there's a lot of things you're not paying attention to. You come into menopause, you start coming into your 50s and beyond with no attention to your body. Watch how you're going to age. It's not going to be the way you want. Your body is demanding that you pay attention. And I think it starts with these basic hunger cues. I want to read what some other people wrote about why you eat when you're not hungry. So Judy says the same thing. I eat when I'm not hungry for something to do. Isn't that interesting? Anonymous says, love food generally, or the need to finish my plate all the time. Just by saying that, you're starting to see your own thoughts. Because if you think you have to finish all the food on the plate, your body is not telling you that. Your body is going to tell you when to stop. But your brain may be changed and may be trained. Somebody told you, and you never questioned, should I? Now that you know that's why, now you have to question, well, why would I? Because somebody told me to? Because somebody's starving in another country? How's that going to help them? The only thing it's going to do to you is make you feel bad about your body, gain weight, do all kinds of things that don't feel good by finishing your plate when you're not hungry. Anonymous also says, in loving food generally, I know a lot of people will say when I do mini sessions, and I'm going to talk about mini sessions today too. I have a lot of people who will tell me, I'm a foodie. I just love food. And that's what you're saying too, Anonymous. I love food too. I'm a foodie. I totally believe that you can love food and totally pay attention to your hunger cues. Totally. I want you to believe that. I think you use it against yourself. Well, because I love food, that's why I can't pay attention, as opposed to I can love food and totally pay attention. Linda says, I eat something hot when I'm cold, or I eat when I see something I didn't even know we had. Big one. Good point. A lot of people have told me, many of my clients, when I see on food journals, fog eating, which we're not going to talk that much about the types of eating, but when we're eating when we're not hungry, when we're eating beyond our plus twos, like what Linda is saying, is because I see it. If it wasn't there, I wouldn't want it. Let me tell you something. You can see something, I don't care what it is, and say, that looks good. Or I might have that sometime, as opposed to, well, now that I see it, I want it, as if you have zero control, which is where all these thoughts come up of I have no control. Just because you see it, just because it's there, does not mean you have to eat it. You got to talk back to your brain. Carolyn says, if I feel worried or upset, I'll eat. Thank you, Carolyn, for saying that. Many people, when they have those emotions, we just call it emotional holes, emotional hunger, meaning there's no physical hunger, but there's an emotional hole. You probably feel it close to your stomach. It's emotions. And you could tell yourself, I'm hungry. And you can train yourself into believing emotional hunger is physical hunger. I see a lot of people on my Facebook and Instagram pages tell me that they eat just because they see it or they eat just because. Not a good reason. The question always has to be, am I hungry? And what I want to talk about a little bit today is the hunger and fullness and the hunger scale. Marie says, because it's time to eat with everyone. That's a big one. Once again, why do you have to eat if you're not hungry, even if everyone else is eating? You don't. You can say, I'm not hungry. I think it's really funny when you have food on your plate and you leave it and somebody says, how come you're not eating? Because they see you're losing weight or they know you're losing weight. And then they see that you have a plate and you didn't finish it all. And they'll say, like, what diet are you on? And my clients will say, I'm just not hungry. Well, what diet is that? Like, it has to be a diet as opposed to, I really want you to think about that the way that you lose your weight, the way that you get there is the way that you're going to stay there. So please, if you're going to pick something of how you want to eat that is not something that you can live with, don't do it because you're not going to be able to live it. And everything that I teach, it's like, why wouldn't you want to do it? It's like eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, figuring out why you're eating when you're not hungry. And then how do you talk to yourself if you see yourself eating when you're not hungry? Those are my 3 steps right here that I want to teach is, do you know when you're hungry? Do you know when you're full? If you're eating and you know you're not hungry, why are you eating when you're not hungry? That's emotional hunger. And the third thing is how do you talk to yourself? I think how we talk to ourselves should be like we are our own very best friends, not our worst enemies. And since I've worked with so many clients over the years, hundreds of women, most people don't talk that nice to themselves, and they're very nice to other people. Marie says it's a social thing. Did you know that you can be out with other people and not eat if you're not hungry? I mean, it's a phenomenon, but it's true. Do you know that you can be out with other people socially, and if they're drinking alcohol and you don't want to drink, you don't have to? They don't care that much. I think we care more about what other people think about what we're putting in our mouth than the people. And I think we care more about what other people think and less about what we think. And I want you to start thinking good things about yourself and what do you want and what do you think? Sheila says she's a newbie, found me on Facebook. Good. Working on controlling my thoughts. I do feel hungry, especially late at night, have trouble sleeping, think mostly needing connection. Okay. So are you saying you're physically hungry, especially at night, have trouble sleeping, thinking mostly needing connection? So are you saying, Sheila, that you need to connect with a physical person? And instead of connecting with a physical person, you're connecting with food when you're not hungry. Is that what you're saying? Because it's very astute that you can see that. It's just that because your brain says a lot of people think they have to eat in order to sleep. Now, if you're physically hungry, that may be true. If you need to eat, you may not be able to sleep. But if you're not physically hungry and you're emotionally hungry, go to sleep. Tammy says a stress reliever. Tammy, you know what I would say and think for the rest of your life if I were you? Eating when you're not hungry creates stress, period. It's not a stress reliever. Even the thought that you think that, it causes more problems than it prevents. And when you think that it's a stress reliever and you believe that as opposed to it causes stress, it doesn't relieve stress. I think it could change things immensely. Sheila is answering me. I'm ready for my appetite to decrease. I drink plenty of water to be sure I am hungry. I am ready for my appetite to decrease. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but I bet you your appetite is decreasing. And it could be that you're feeling more emotional hunger. And the more you do this work, the more you're going to see how much emotional hunger is driving you to tell yourself that you're hungry. And all the reasons that people wrote about why they eat when they're not hungry is all emotional hunger. And emotional hunger is negative emotion in your body from thoughts that you think. Okay. So What I'm going to do is I want to show you the physical hunger scale and the emotional hunger scale. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I want to spend a little bit of time on it. And then after that, what I would love to be able to do is I'm going to go over how I offer mini sessions. And then after that, I want to coach somebody or a couple people. So I want you to start thinking about as I'm talking about this stuff, especially a lot of you who, like Sheila, you might love to be coached by me right now because the reason that you like to eat is a coachable moment. Or Jen, maybe you would like to be coached about tasting so good and let me coach you on that. And the beauty of the coaching is it will help everybody understand why they eat when they're not hungry. But do you understand the physical hunger scale? Those of you who have worked with me or know my podcast know this. But I think if it wasn't for this physical hunger scale and if it wasn't for somebody asking me, do I know when I'm hungry or do I know when I'm full? I never would have changed. So no matter where you are on this journey, being able to do this on a regular basis can change everything for you. Just knowing your own numbers. And since the physical hunger scale goes from a negative 10 to a plus 10, negative 10 is starving and plus 10 is full. Most of you don't go to either of those extremes. But where I ask you to eat and where I ask you to stop is at a negative 2, which is 8 points down from starving. And where I tell you to stop is at a plus 2, which is 8 points from stuffed, which means there's a lot of room in your stomach either way to overeat or undereat. There's just a lot of room. I mean, I came up with these numbers and I think they're pretty accurate as I've been working with people for you to know your own numbers so that you know that when you're at a plus 2, you know it. Now, the only way you're going to know this is you got to write it down. And what I want to offer to you is my book that I offer with my podcasts, Jumpstart Your Weight Loss. And in it are food journals, the physical hunger scale, and the emotional hunger scale. If you don't have it and you've never done this, or you've worked with me before and you haven't done this in a while, getting back into this and saying, you know what, to yourself, you're important enough that I want to write this down. Now, I don't think the food journals that I teach you are anything like what you've ever used in Weight Watchers or anything else, or tracking your calories or whatever. This is all about knowing when to start and knowing when to stop and what your numbers are. And if you can tell the difference between eating at a negative 2 or waiting to a negative 4, or eating to a plus 2, which is time to stop, or eating to a plus 4. Because a lot of times when we say we're full, what do we mean? A lot of times people say they're full, but what? Are you full at a plus 7? Are you full at a plus 4? You got 0 to plus 10 to be full. I'll tell you another thing that a lot of people have problems with that is very important that I think will help you is when you're eating between the twos, it means you're not eating at a negative 1. And as I'm working with clients over the years and they start getting their numbers down, one of the things I'll start seeing is starting to eat at a negative 1 and calling it hunger, or even eating at a 0. You don't start eating until it's time to eat, and that's a negative 2, not a negative 1. A negative 1 means your body's getting ready, but it's not time. If you eat at negative 1s, you'll be eating all day long, which is a great way if you have a lot of emotions that you're trying to fill. So it's really interesting that when I see people eating at negative 1s, usually there's more emotional hunger than physical hunger. Physical hunger, negative 1, your body can go, well, you're a little hungry. You got to be able to talk back and go, it's not time to eat yet. Or even 0. When you really get used to these numbers and you feel your body at a 0, there's room. You see what I mean? That could be. And you add it, these numbers, negative 1s and 0s, usually are paired with stronger negative emotion. So when I'm talking about emotional hunger, let me show you a little bit about what I mean here. The emotional hunger scale looks similar to the physical hunger scale. The only thing is we're really looking at emotions and we're also looking at urges. Those of you who have heard me for a while, I talk a lot about urges. And an urge is negative emotion. 0 to negative 10 is considered negative emotion. Anytime you're eating beyond a +2, there is negative emotional hunger going on, even when you're at a party having a good time. See, a lot of people will say to me, well, I eat when I'm happy. That's what I used to say too. I'm just eating because I'm celebrating. In fact, I'm getting ready to celebrate my birthday, celebrate my anniversary, and celebrate my husband's birthday in the next 6 weeks. Do you know how much weight I used to gain during this time period? A lot. I expected it. And it is such a pleasure that I can celebrate and not gain weight and I can still enjoy food. This is what I want for you is you can be a foodie, you can love food. It's just that you don't eat food when you're not hungry. You can love to eat, you can love food. You just don't eat when you're not hungry. That's the difference. That's how you have to talk to yourself. This emotional hunger is the reason you probably don't weigh what you want to weigh. And there's a lot of things, and I just did it on my podcast, which I think is really important too, that some of you have this thought that I'm doing everything I can and it's not working. You could do it about my podcast. You can say, well, I started journaling and I started trying to do the twos. It didn't work. I'll go, well, how long did you do it? Well, not that long. The thought is I'm doing it, but it's not working is probably the worst thought you're ever going to think because the only thing it's ever going to do for you is make you eat when you're not hungry. That's the only thing it's going to do because you're going to say, well, since this isn't working, whatever it is that you're trying, why don't I just go back and just forget about it? Celebrate, eat emotionally, eat all the foods that I love. You can eat the foods that you love, weigh what you want to weigh, and be mindful about foods when they're considered joy foods. A joy food or a joy eat, you don't use a food like that if you've got negative emotion. And I talk a lot about joy eating on my podcast. If you've never heard my podcast, start at the first one and start listening to some of the ways that I talk about food. But I think you should be able to eat whatever you want. I want you to believe that you can eat whatever you want. It's just what do you want and how much of it do you want and how long do you want to be doing it? Because I used to think, oh man, if I didn't have any weight to lose, I would just eat potato chips. That's what I thought. I mean, I'm an educated woman. I thought I would eat potato chips all day long if I didn't gain any weight. The only reason I wouldn't eat them is because I would gain weight. Now it's like I can eat them, I can enjoy them, I can be mindful. I don't have to have a whole bag of them. I don't have to hide them from myself. I don't have to throw them away. I don't have to put them under hot water. That's what I used to do. I used to get a bag of potato chips and then I go, oh my God, I'll finish the bag. That's how I would talk to myself. And then I go in the sink and I throw hot water over it. So I couldn't eat it and then throw it in the garbage. I used to just throw it in the garbage, but I found if I didn't put hot water over it, I'd go in the garbage and go back and get it. That's what you call a mind that's not managed. But I could be thin as long as I was on my diet. But when I wasn't on my diet, a whole different story. I want you to know and believe that you can eat whatever you want. What do you want? That you can weigh whatever you want. How much you want to weigh? Is it realistic? Why do you want to weigh it? There are so many things. What happens when you get on the scale and it doesn't give you a number that you like? What do you do? I'll tell you what a lot of you do when you don't like that number. You go, well, it's not working. And what do you do when it's not working? You go back to eating when you're not hungry and thinking that you're rewarding yourself. Poor thing, that scale didn't give you what you wanted. Well, let's go and eat something anyway. We're going to show that scale. Crazy. Okay. So that's emotional hunger. And when you're really working with food journals, if you want to get the guide, which has the food journals in it and the physical hunger scale and the emotional hunger scale, you go to drdebbutler.com/change and you can pick up this book. Now, when do you think you should pick up this book? Not tomorrow, right after I'm through with this course. Go get it and start finding out when am I hungry and when am I full at the next meal. Don't wait till tomorrow. Why wait till tomorrow? What are you waiting for? Well, first, I'm going to have to eat everything I can't eat because tomorrow I'm going to start on a diet. I don't want you to think like that. I want you to think, well, what's wrong with eating when you're hungry and stopping when I'm full at the next meal? What am I waiting for? Get the journal and start learning how to use it. And I usually suggest if you've never done this before and you get the food journal, just start the first week with how hungry are you and how full are you? And start with those numbers. That's what I want you to do. Start with the numbers. See if you can start identifying your numbers after the first week. And no matter what, after the first week, and you get on the scale, and let's say you don't lose anything, please don't use the thought, I did it and it doesn't work. Don't let your brain go there. Because why wouldn't you want to learn how to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full? Period. Now, a lot of times as we start learning our numbers, we start fine tuning our numbers over time. And what we may find by weighing ourselves is that maybe what we think our plus twos are plus fours. How do we know? Because either we gained weight or we didn't lose weight. Or maybe there's foods that our bodies don't like. You got to be really, really curious about all this if the only thing you've ever done your whole life is follow a diet and somebody else tells you what to do. Because for those of you who worked with me, I don't really tell you what to eat too much, but I do like to know what you're thinking. The last thing that I want to do is I want to be able to coach some people today, but I also want to tell you that I'm offering mini sessions. Many of you may know I do that, but a mini session is for those of you who like what I'm saying, but don't understand something, or who like what I'm saying and want to work with me, but don't know how to work with me. Because if you go to my website, the only thing you can do on my website is schedule a mini session. You can't schedule to work with me without talking to me. So a mini session is 30 minutes of you and I talking. And when we're talking, what I'll do, number one, is I'll explain my individual coaching program to you. I'll tell you how it works. You'll tell me what your problems are. I'll coach you on it, and then we'll decide if I can help you. And if I can, it might be a perfect place to start. But you can only do it with a mini session. And right now, I have mini sessions available. I think I have like 3 or 4 a week right now, starting in August. Right now, they're all full, but in August, I've opened them up and I want 4 a week to give all of you an opportunity to talk to me if you want to. So if you want that, you can go to drdebbutler.com/mini. Very, very simple process. Okay. Now, what I want to do now is I want to see if anybody would love to be coached. I got the Q&A up. I have questions if you want to answer. I've got the Q&A up for you to talk to me. I'm going to look and see. Sheila doesn't want to because she's not in a private place, but Sheila would be good. Jen would be good. Linda, if you're interested. And if you're not, go in the Q&A and ask me a question about what I'm talking about. If you know what you're thinking, why are you eating if you're not hungry? Based on what I'm talking to you about now, do you know your hunger and do you know your fullness? Do you know when you're hungry and do you know when you're full? I asked you why you eat when you're not hungry. Now I'm asking you, do you know when you're hungry and do you know when you're full? Or Do you just go by the clock? Do you just go by being bored? What do you do? What would you like to do? And how do you talk to yourself? Because that's the third simple step when we're doing this is what? What would you do if you could eat anything that you wanted as long as you were hungry and you stopped when you were full, but you had the thought that you could eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full and you could have anything you wanted as long as you stayed in between your twos. Now, right now, I'm not talking about the types of eating. I'm talking about any food. Now, I think most of you, there may be some exceptions, but at least most of the women that I talk to like to eat healthy. I mean, they like to. They like the foods. And so the question then becomes like, well, what would you do if you could eat anything you wanted as long as you stayed in between the twos? That might be a fantastic practice for a week. And the way I talk about this is eat mostly fuel food in between the twos. That's kind of the program. Eat mostly fuel foods, eat between the twos. But then I also say you can eat whatever you want, and there can be some non nutritious foods in there or what we call joy eats. And a joy eat, I love the term. A joy eat is a non nutritious food. And the way you get to call it a joy eat is because you enjoy it bite by bite and you stop the minute that you're done, as opposed to the way I would do potato chips is eat the whole bag. Wasn't mindful, but I might have been saying to myself, oh, these are so good. Or I might have been saying to myself, I really can't control myself. You got to see how you talk to yourself. Do you know what you say to yourself? Are you aware of what you say to yourself? And what could you say to yourself instead? For instance, when something is so delicious and it's so good, what could you say to yourself instead? That's the question. Valerie says, I eat so fast, I'm way past the time I'm full when I realize it. I have a lot of people that say that, but I guarantee you, you can eat fast and stop, even if you eat fast, but you have to pay attention. So, however fast you're eating, you have to be connected to your body at the same time, even if you're eating fast. You have to believe I can eat fast and still stop. I think when you say I eat so fast, I don't realize it, you will never, ever realize it. It's like you're not paying attention. But if you say, I'm going to eat this and I'm going to stop at a +2, I don't care how fast you eat. Just stop when you feel it. How are you going to feel it? You're going to tell yourself, I'm going to pay attention. That's the only way. You can eat slower, but you can eat fast too. You can eat in front of the TV. You can eat and read a book. This is really what I believe. I believe you can do two things at the same time and still weigh what you want to weigh and stop when you're full, stop when you're at a +2. It's just that you can pay attention to more than one thing. You can be mindful of what's going on in your body. And at the same time, you can also be mindful about what you're doing. You can be in a social situation having a really good time, a really good time. And you can still be paying attention to how your body feels when you're putting food in your mouth. I have a lot of people that say, I can't do that. I have a lot of people that say, I was having such a good time, I didn't pay attention. You can have a good time with people. You can have food in front of you. You can be eating it and you can stop when you're at a +2. And you can decide what it is that you're putting in your mouth. If you decide that you can't do that, you absolutely won't be able to do that. You have to decide, I can do both of those things. You don't just have to pay attention to eating, but you have to pay attention to your hunger signals. and you can look outside or you could talk to somebody. There's a lot of things that you could do and still be connected to your body. I'll tell you another thing that really gets in the way of emotional hunger. And maybe those of you have also heard this is that when you're eating, it's possible that you could be having fun celebrating. Because this is what I used to think, celebrating and eating go together. I just made it mean that if I'm celebrating and I'm having a good time, like I'm having my birthday, then I deserve to somehow go beyond what my limits are for my body. Now, I'm not saying I might not have an extra joy eat. I may not. Just because it's my birthday doesn't mean I get joy eat. It's funny. Sometimes we think like when it's a celebration for us, we shouldn't have to pay attention. And it's a diet mentality that makes us think like that. Why wouldn't you pay attention? And why wouldn't you stop when your body says it's time to stop? And then you go, well, it's my birthday. I shouldn't have to do that. I'm going to start again tomorrow. My mentality for months and years based on birthdays and anniversaries, this 6-week period right now, it was just weight gain time. But I said to myself, I gave myself permission. I gave myself permission to not pay attention to my body. Like, why would you want to do that? You want a piece of cake? Eat a piece of cake. Pay attention. Enjoy it bite by bite. You might not even want a whole piece. What an idea. When you're doing a joy eat and it's very, very mindful, a lot of times you don't eat as much and don't want as much. To this day, it's really interesting when I'm with my mom and I eat a joy eat and I'll have a few bites. I really enjoy it. And she'll say to me, "Oh, you are so disciplined." And I'm not using discipline and I'm not using willpower. It's kind of the same thing if we leave food on our plate and somebody says, "Well, what diet are you on?" Because some people believe they should finish everything on their plate. And if you're not, you must be doing something as opposed to, well, there's food on my plate because my body said stop. When do you think is a good time to start respecting your body? When is a good time to start talking to yourself in a way that's kind? So let's say when we talk about how do you talk to yourself? Now, there's a way to talk to yourself that sounds nice. Like, I gave myself permission to eat that, as if you're doing such a nice thing for yourself. But actually, there's nothing nice about it. It's indulgent. You're indulging yourself as opposed to tough love. Tough love is very different from indulging and the way that you talk to yourself. So, for instance, if you eat something and you know you're not hungry and you eat it anyway because you gave yourself permission, how many people tell me that? Well, I just gave myself permission. I should be able to do that. Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you give yourself permission to go, well, I don't have to listen to my body today? It's kind of the same thing. If something hurts in your body, should you pay attention to it? Well, I know there's some of you that don't until it hurts so bad you can't walk. But it's the same thing with when do you eat and when do you stop? You eat when you're hungry and you stop when you're full. Do you eat at a -2 or do you wait till you're -6? Do you stop at a +2 or do you stop at a +6? It's like, what are the limits here? Why do that to yourself? Now, I think this thing when I talk about indulging, you might think that's a nice thing that you can do. Well, I let myself have cake because it was my birthday. I mean, I don't care if you eat cake for your birthday, but watch how you talk to yourself and watch how you eat it. Do you give yourself permission or do you just eat it with abandon because tomorrow you're going to not eat it? Or do you eat it because it's the reward for it's your birthday, but you're not going to really pay attention? As opposed to, I'm going to pay a lot of attention. I'm going to enjoy it bite by bite because it's your birthday, because it's not your birthday. I don't even care. And I'm going to stop the minute I'm done. It's such a practice. That's another thing that all of you could do this week is practice joy eating. Fuel eating basically is when you're putting nutritious food in your body. Now, let me tell you when I'm coaching people about that, it's very, very interesting that when I ask somebody, is that fuel food for you? And you know what they'll say sometimes? Well, I don't know, is a good one. Or a lot of times they'll say, well, it could be, but I wasn't hungry. If you're not hungry, it can still be fuel food because it's nutritious food for your body. Nutritious food for your body is considered fuel. But if you're eating fuel food and your body says stop because you're at a +2, then you are what we're doing called fog eating, and you're eating when you're not hungry. I don't care if it's a salad. I don't care if it's oatmeal. I don't care what it is. Grilled chicken and broccoli, very nutritious, healthy foods. But if your body says stop, your brain can't say, but it's healthy, you can do it. Or maybe your brain's going to say, well, you won't gain weight. When it's all about weight, then it becomes that. You start working on this connection to your body and you start valuing this body that has been given to you. You decide to take care of it. Menopause is the time where your body is begging you, please take care of me. And it's got lots of symptoms to make you pay attention if you haven't noticed. But I believe it can all be taken care of. And I believe that we can be better because we decided to take care of it. So I know I spent my first 50 years not really. I mean, I was a chiropractor. I knew everything. I know a lot of you know everything about food too. Did not stop me from using food in all the wrong ways or eating foods that weren't good for my body. And there was no mindfulness about any of it. I was binging on potato chips. Binging meaning storming, meaning I was eating way beyond the enjoyment. I was doing something totally different. Potato chips became a reward. Potato chips became something I deserved. It was my birthday. I should eat potato chips. On my birthday 20 years ago, that was the day that I could just eat anything I wanted with no regard to my body. What kind of birthday present is that? Think about it. Is that really how you want to be celebrating the next half of your life? Think about it. So, for the few minutes that we have left, I want to know if you have any questions about how you talk to yourself. Do you talk to yourself as if you were your own best friend, even when you see yourself doing something you don't like? Can you start distinguishing the difference between emotional hunger and physical hunger? Let me give you a hint. If you're starting to work on your emotional hunger and you're using a food journal, you can go to drdebbutler.com/change to get these food journals. When you see yourself eating emotionally, if you want to look at emotional hunger, only look at it if you're eating beyond the +2. That's how I would start. I wouldn't look at your emotions every time you eat. If you're eating between the twos, no reason to pay attention to the emotional hunger, unless you know that you're in a very stressful situation and you know you have negative emotions in your body, and yet you see that you ate between the twos. That means that you had emotional hunger and didn't feel it. That might be worth looking at and giving yourself a pat on the back. When you talk to yourself in the first week, you don't have to lose a zillion pounds. You don't even have to lose any weight. The way that you want to talk to yourself is if you find that you ate a meal and you found yourself in between the twos, you celebrate it. You just celebrate it. You don't say, well, I'm not really sure. I don't even know if that was. That's usually the way most people will talk. You'll say to yourself, I'm so glad you tried. And the next meal may be easier. And if you do it for 7 days, you will have a much better feel what your numbers are. And knowing your numbers is imperative. And you start with the physical hunger scale and you end up with the emotional hunger scale once you understand your physical hunger scale. You see yourself at a +2 or above, That's a good reason to say, what's going on with you today? If I was coaching you, that's exactly what I would say to you. Well, why did you eat if you weren't hungry? And you're going to give me an answer, and it could be any of the answers that I just talked about today. Oh, it was so good. Oh, it was my birthday. It was his birthday. I was with friends. They were all eating. What would they think? Be aware of that kind of chatter. Quiet your mind. How do you quiet your mind? You start paying attention to it. You start getting bored. You start letting yourself be bored. It's okay to be bored. Boredom can lead you somewhere if you're not filling it. I promise you, had I not learned this work in my 50s, I would still be a chiropractor. I don't know about a happy chiropractor, but I'd be a chiropractor still because I had a lot of things about why I couldn't leave that job, why I couldn't leave that profession. And I can't tell you the difference between the two professions, but I got to tell you, this is what I was meant to be doing now. And how I got here was through a lot of discomfort and having to feel it and not fill it. And that's what I'm offering you today. Are you willing to feel it instead of fill it? If you want to know more, mini sessions are the way to go. We can talk. Go to drdebbutler.com/mini, and we set up some time and we speak for 30 minutes. And I promise you, you'll walk away with something, or you'll walk away with working with me. Either way, you're going to get something. Why do you do what you do is really the question that we just keep asking. Why do I do what I do? Sheila says, we'll begin using the hunger scale. Thank you for all the great tips. Wonderful. All right, everybody. Time is up. You can go get a book. You can sign up for a mini session. You can be nicer to yourself the minute you get off this call. You can go to your next meal and eat between the twos. You can decide what your fuel food is. You can start believing that you can eat whatever you want, but what do you really want? You can believe that the next half of your life is going to be the best part of your life, and it's going to come from feeling some of these emotions that you've been eating. I promise you. Thank you for coming. I've loved every minute of it. And I'll be doing this again. I'm going to be doing a bunch of these free little masterclass webinars throughout the summer because I love connecting with people. Have a great week. Do all the things that I told you to do. Do one thing that I told you to do. Bye. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change, and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change. CHANGE.